right, thank you all for tuning in to WJC 98.3 FM, your voice of music, your station. My name is Chef Badu, and I'm a parallel entrepreneur and a wealth multiplier. I'm the founder and CEO of Badu Enterprises LLC, which is a multinational conglomerate in the finance industry. And what we do is we provide a suite of financial services, including tax preparation, financial coaching, credit repair, real estate investing, and services of that nature. Today, we're here to talk about how do you protect your wealth. I've met a lot of people, unfortunately, in my lifetime, and know a lot of people who are literally out building their wealth but don't really protect it. Meaning there's no estate planning in place, there's no trust, there's no will. I mean, very rarely do I meet somebody with a will nowadays, which is crazy. I mean, what happens when you pass away? Do you think it just magically ends up in somebody's hands? Or, I mean, you have to have these things in place even when you're young. The best time to actually do it is when you're young. And when you have your first child, it is required. Like the moment you get your first child, estate planning becomes required at that point. Just because now it's really, when you're dealing with minors and things of that nature, you want to make sure that you have your estate plan in place. So today we're here to just cover a few tips and tricks as to how to go about properly estate planning. It is extremely important, extremely critical. And just know that people like Prince, for example, the legendary Prince, died without an estate plan, a trust, or a will. Can you imagine? He lost millions of dollars because he didn't have these things in place when he could have spent a few thousand and got these things set up. And some of these things don't even cost you a few thousand. It might cost you a few hundred or even less than that. Before that, let's kick it off with the market report. This report is as of July 10th, 2020. Last Monday proved to be a good start for the week for equities, as each of the benchmark indexes essentially posted solid gains. The NASDAQ, for those that don't know, is composed mainly of technology stocks. It just keeps going up. It just keeps going up. I can't remember the last time the NASDAQ went down. And what's going on, kid? The NASDAQ reached a record high as surging tech stocks drove that index up 2.2% for its fifth consecutive gain. The Dow finished the day up nearly 1.8%, and the S&P 500 climbed 1.6%. Last Tuesday saw the end of a 5-day winning streak as stocks slid, despite reports from the White House and Senate promoting a new round of stimulus. So for those that are hoping and praying or expecting a new stimulus, or they have resumed talks, or they're continuously talking about it, and I do believe that it is necessary and they will release some new stimulus pretty soon. For those that may not know, the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance portion, is out. So no more money will be released from the grant portion. Unfortunately, just happened this morning, actually. So just something to keep in mind, that the SBA no longer gives out the advance for that EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the grant portion. You can still get the loan, which has very favorable terms, but the grant portion is out of the door right now. But ultimately, an increase in COVID-19 outbreaks seemed to dim investor hopes for a quick economic recovery. I don't know why they would expect a quick economic recovery. I mean, there's already been reports that this thing would take some time for us to recover. And at the rate that Florida and Texas are going, we're not coming back anytime soon. Sectors taking a particular hit were industrials, energy, and financials. The small caps of the Russell 2000 lost nearly 2%. The Dow fell 1.5%. The S&P 500 dropped 1.1%. And the NASDAQ dipped 0.9%. Equities rebounded last Wednesday as Apple and Amazon sent the NASDAQ to another record high. Technology stocks, once again. Gold shot past $1,800 per ounce. Crude oil closed at $41 per barrel. And Treasury yields dipped. Last Thursday saw stocks fall on fears that the rising number of COVID-19, so nowadays they're like back and forth. COVID-19 goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, and nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what they're doing at this point. But basically, the rising number of COVID-19 cases will undercut the economy as they expect. We do expect Q2 results to be pretty miserable, probably worse than Q1, which will, by the way, put us in a recession, for those that don't know what that means. A recession is simply 2 straight quarters of decline in GDP, gross domestic product. That's all a recession is, by the way. It doesn't mean anything more than that, really. By definition, a recession is simply 2 straight quarters of decline in GDP, meaning that production has dropped basically for 2 straight quarters. What does that mean? It doesn't really mean anything if you think about it. It just means that the economy can be improved, basically. So don't get scared of the word recession. I mean, we're basically in one already right now. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but I mean, it's very clear that we are in a recession right now. I mean, it is what it is. You just got to take it for what it is and do the best you can and pay attention. It's very important to pay attention. But yeah, basically COVID-19 cases undercut the economy and ultimately dropped the stock market. The Dow dropped 1.4%. The small caps of the Russell 2000 fell 2%. The global Dow gave back 0.8%, and the S&P 500 lost 0.6%. Industrials, energy, and financials were market sectors hit particularly hard. Only the NASDAQ. Remember, you got to be in technology stocks. You have to be. Whether in COVID-19 or not, tech will keep rising no matter what. So just brace yourselves. Tech is going to keep rising. I predict that tech will be up by the end of this year compared to last year, and it will be up even next year compared to this year. So there's no reason not to be in technology. Unless you're hiding under a rock or you absolutely hate computers, there's no reason why you should not be in technology stocks right now. It is, I don't know how much more clear to put it. The crude oil prices plunged 2.6%. Treasury yields fell as bond prices surged. NASDAQ gained 0.5% as tech stocks held their own, as they always do nowadays. Stocks climbed higher last Friday following the release of promising clinical results for COVID-19 treatment by Gilead Sciences, one of my favorite companies, by the way. Finance, banks, energy, communications, and industrials performed well on the day. Each of the benchmark indexes enjoyed solid gains led by the Russell 2000, which closed last Friday up 1.7%. Despite its strong showing last Friday, the Russell 2000 ended last week as the only index in the red. The NASDAQ led the way, as usual, gaining 4%, followed by the S&P 500, the global Dow, and the Dow. Investors seem to be clinging to any positive news to offset record number of reported virus cases and ongoing discord with China, particularly as it relates to that country's dealings with Hong Kong. Crude oil prices went up $40.32 per barrel to $40.49, so not that much. Price of COMEX gold went up $17.87.60 to $18.01.40. Let's see what else happened. So far this year, the Dow Jones is down 8.63%. The NASDAQ, my goodness, here it is, up 18.33%. When the world is tanking, guess what tech is doing? It's just rising. The NASDAQ, technology stocks, up 18.33% so far this year. So if you were in tech to start this year, man, you'd be living pretty nice right now. You'd be on the beach relaxing instead of worrying about COVID-19 and the stock market going down. Hopefully you're taking safety precautions. You know, somebody who loves taking trips. Nowadays we take trips in secret, in silence. But ultimately, it's tech is where you have to be. Tech is controlling our world. Tech is where you need to be. Tech will not go anywhere today. It won't go anywhere tomorrow, and it won't go anywhere 10 years from now. If anything, tech is going to boom. I predict that in the next 10 years, you'll see cars driving itself. You'll see robots everywhere. You'll see drones up in the air everywhere you go. Some of it might suck, but I feel like you'll see this sort of this futuristic type of deal, like all the movies we've seen. I think that in 2030, that's what we'll see, and we've sort of already seen some of those things. For example, movies are being shot with drones nowadays. Even farmers, like the farmers are having robots basically on the farms now. And of course, robots can't catch COVID-19. So it's like, okay, well, do we just keep the people who are at risk of COVID-19, or do we just bring these robots who can be 10 times more efficient than the human beings themselves? So it's a debate. I don't think it's a hard debate at all. I think technology will dominate everything that we do, as it already is. So brace yourselves. It's that's that's something that you definitely need to keep in mind. You do have to brace yourselves. So that's something to keep in mind. I mean, just a few tips and tricks. I'm just telling you what I know. Whatever happens in the future. But the S&P 500 is down, not too much. It's only down 1.42%. So good so far. So good, I would say, compared to what's happened this year. Russell 2000 is down 14.73%. Global Dow is down 11.07%, and the federal funds rate is at a mere 0%. So interest rates are at 0%. 10-year treasuries are at 0.63%. I mean, that is just scary low. So this week, what to expect? Consumer Price Index, CPI, which is basically one of the indicators of inflation and also ties back to the whole GDP story. This week, the Consumer Price Index, or CPI for short, is likely to show some upward price pressure in June, meaning that June was a pretty decent month, probably because of the weather. People were spending more, but also COVID-19 cases went up. So, I mean, take it for what it is. Also, industrial production is expected to climb in June as more businesses reopen. Now, some businesses are about to close again, so that's also something to keep in mind. So that's the story behind the stock market. All is good, all is well, nothing to worry about. Just pay attention and try to get in tech and pharmaceuticals. Cannabis too. Cannabis is still pretty hot. I know in Illinois, cannabis became legal this year, or at least recreational cannabis became legal this year, and then all of a sudden COVID-19 happened, completely overshadowed the whole cannabis thing. But cannabis is still doing pretty good. So that's still, I mean, who knows? That might be tied to COVID-19, recoveries. Who knows? Nowadays, you can't really say anything about COVID-19. It's just this mysterious thing that it's just here one day, and then it drops a little bit, then it spikes up, and then they say, oh, they came out with a vaccine that can help speed up the process for 4 days. And then I hear that Madagascar has the vaccine, but the U.S. doesn't want to release it. I know Ghana has a nice vaccine. We have a very nice drink that can improve our immune system. I consider that the COVID-19 vaccine. But who knows? All right, who am I to say anything? I'm not a doctor. I'm just a guy that's talking about money on the show. But let's talk about estate planning. How to protect your wealth. It's very important. I mean, can you imagine building something and then it just all crumbles down because you made one silly mistake that you didn't cover the foundation? You didn't cover your bases, and so the entire thing that you built just crumbles down in pieces. I mean, that is painful. That is very, very painful. I've personally built something and lost it. Right? So I always say this to my clients: let me be the test. Let me be the lesson that you learn from the mistakes that I've made in life. I'm only 27 years old, about to turn 28 in a month, but I've learned so many lessons in life. So many of the celebrities we actually know today, can you imagine, celebrities with millions and some even billions of dollars, unfortunately died. Now, the billionaires, there's not a single billionaire that I know that died without a will or an estate plan. See, billionaires are a whole nother level of wealth. We're talking about the millionaires that became millionaires from NBA contracts, albums, businesses. A lot of them, unfortunately, died without a will, yet alone a trust, which is a problem. I mean, I'll get to what these things mean in a second. And full disclosure, by the way, I am not an attorney. Anything that I say on the show should not be taken as legal advice. It is simply best practices and things that I know that work well for me and the people that I know. Now, they have long-lost cousins claiming assets. Can you imagine? Prince had back child support claimed against him for somebody who wasn't even his kid. But you literally have people, lost cousins, lost kids, even grandparents claiming stuff that they don't know, that they know for sure doesn't belong to them. And I would say Prince is a prime example because he died without a will and he basically lost a lot. He had to spend so much money, or his estate had to spend so much money because he literally died without a will, yet alone a trust. We'll talk about what these things actually mean, but just to emphasize the importance of it, Aretha Franklin died without a will, nor an estate plan or trust. Pablo Picasso, the man we all know as the greatest painter, the greatest artist of all time, died without a will or a trust. Can you imagine? And the list goes on, by the way. I mean, I can go on and on and on. But these are some of the most famous people on the planet who, to this day, their name rings many bells. I mean, Pablo Picasso, everybody knows who Pablo Picasso is. Unfortunately, he died and he had nothing really to show for it other than the fact that he had some paintings behind his name. Somebody like Prince, back child support. People were suing him for copyright infringement after he died, of course. So many things. Versus somebody like Michael Jackson. Man, I respected Michael Jackson even more when I found out what he did while he was alive. Michael Jackson died with a trust and a will, a proper estate plan, and he's making millions and millions of dollars every single year while he's dead. His family is massively attaining wealth because of him and what he's left behind, the legacy that he's left behind. He died with something to show for it. Unlike somebody like Prince, who I love Prince, by the way. You know, I do. This is not the money talk side of me, but I do think Prince, might have not been the best when it comes to his mental. But I loved his music, love the things, some of the things that he was doing. But man, to die without even a will, I mean, that's pretty bad. So when I first found out about these things, guess what? I got an estate plan. I reached out to my attorney and I said, hey, I've heard these stories. I do not want to be the guy, God forbid, that dies and has nothing to show for it. Because you can literally lose a lot if you don't have these things in place. Whether you've made millions, billions, whatever it is, it can mean nothing if you have nothing to show for it. So in order to leave a legacy, we must plan properly and protect our assets. Estate planning is one way. You can talk to an estate planner and an estate attorney. And estate planning is one way that we can put ourselves in a better position to leave that legacy that we've worked so hard for, that we've built for our families and for our loved ones. Keep in mind that it's not just for older people or old folks, grown folks, 65 and older, senior citizens. No, estate planning is not just for them. It is for us too, the millennials, right? The people that came after us. Younger people need an estate plan as well, because you never know when you're going to die, right? If you have a business, an investment, you just never know. You just never know. So estate planning is critical. We need to have certain things in place in order to properly have an estate plan. So now I'm basically going to get into what you need to have within your estate plan. Please do not try this at home. I've heard horror stories. People tried to draft up their own estate plans. They failed miserably and lost almost everything. Talk to a qualified attorney. If not, then you can use sites like Legal Shield, for example, which can help you obtain at least a will that you can have next to your name and can have assets passed down from generation to generation. Ultimately, you should have a will and a trust, which we'll talk about now. So estate planning is the process of determining how, when and to whom your assets will be distributed once you pass away. Without an estate plan, nobody knows any of this stuff. Without an estate plan, you will literally, God forbid, pass away and nobody will know what to do with the money. And I would say I'll be the first to say I've had family members pass away and unfortunately did not have an estate plan, to the point where, so much litigation costs, so much legal. Probate is the worst thing on the planet, in my opinion. Probate is the process where basically a judge, can you imagine all your assets going to the state of Illinois and then the judge determining who gets what? That would be very frustrating to me. I would be extremely frustrated if I knew that happened. So basically, the estate is the process to determine how, when, and whom your assets will be passed down to when it's all said and done. We all will die at some point. I was watching a movie. It was about, I think it's the number one movie on Netflix now. I think it just came out, and it was literally these folks that died and then they came back to life. And even they said at some point everybody dies, right? At some point it just all goes away. Some of these people were, I believe, 100 years old, 150 years old, but even they said that you have to die at some point. Everybody dies at some point. Even the oldest man on the planet today will die at some point. So we all know that death is a guaranteed thing to happen in life. As to when, nobody knows. It can be tomorrow. It can be 10 years from now. It can be 100 years from now. Nobody knows. But what we do know is we can position ourselves right now in order to avoid our assets not being protected and going to the wrong people. We can ensure that our assets go to the right people, the right individuals, our loved ones. So we all would die at some point, and if we have assets to pass on to the next generation, then we need an estate plan. If you have a house, if you have a car, if you have a business, right? If you have a retirement plan, you need to have these things in place. Even if you don't, at least get a will. Update it at least once a year. Have that peace of mind, and just get yourself going. The first step to forming a proper estate plan is to seek out the help of an attorney. Notice it's not going online on YouTube and all that. You could just to get some preliminaries, and of course you're listening to the show now. But the first step, you need an attorney to do an estate plan. You cannot do an estate plan properly without an attorney. If you need one, let me know, and I'll be able to refer you my attorney, my personal attorney. But you need the help of an attorney that will help you draft your estate documents. Estate planning documents include a will, a living trust, one that's preferably revocable, durable power of attorney, advanced medical directives, and a letter of instruction. These are the 5 items, and I guarantee you less than 1% of the people listening to the show right now knew that you needed to have all these things in an estate plan. So for those reasons, you need to get a professional involved. So those are a will, a living trust, a durable power of attorney, advanced medical directives, and then a letter of instruction. Estate planning can also help you avoid the estate tax. Yes, if you die, you can get hit with a 40% or so tax. And in the state of Illinois, it's roughly about 16% or so, give or take. So can you imagine 56% of your money, your assets, what you've worked so hard for, going to the government because you didn't take one simple step to plan for your estate, for your taxes. So this is critical. Estate planning is very, very critical. If your estate is worth over $11 million now, so now it used to be $5.4 million, but now it's $11 million, and that includes your life insurance policy, death benefits, the net value of your business or the valuation of your business, the appraisal value of your real estate minus your mortgage or any indebtedness associated with those properties. So if your estate is worth $11 million or more, and if you're married, I always encourage my clients to get married because one of the main reasons is that marriage leads to a lot of tax benefits. It's one of the secrets of those who are successful. If you notice, a lot of successful people are actually married. Part of that is because there's a lot of tax benefits. Of course, that's not the only reason. But instead of $11 million, now it becomes $22 million. That's completely estate tax free. States like Texas, which I love the state of Texas, by the way, there is no estate tax. Right? So proper estate planning will tell you where to place your assets or which states to draft your estate documents or basically have residency. And then you can set up certain trusts, irrevocable or irrevocable trusts, charitable LLCs, things of that nature, more advanced stuff. So if your estate is worth $11 million or more, then you need to make sure you properly get trusts and do some estate planning. So it becomes even more critical. So this includes life insurance proceeds, real estate, cars, stocks, things of that nature. Estate tax can be up to 40%. 40%. Imagine sharing 40% of what you've worked so hard for with Uncle Sam, and then 16% for the state of Illinois, as if Uncle Sam didn't take enough. I mean, that's almost 60% of your money gone that you didn't even get to enjoy while you were living. Man, if that's not the saddest thing in the world, I don't know what is, to be honest. I mean, that is highway robbery. That is literally somebody coming to you with a gun point to your head and say, give me your money. You give them the money, and then everybody walks away. Literally, that is how bad it is. Charitable contributions and other distributions, i.e. to your spouse. So basically, if you give all your money to your spouse upon death, then you are exempt from the estate tax. However, once your spouse passes away, now she's responsible for all the estate tax. So you definitely want to do some planning behind that. Always good to distribute certain assets early, right? In order to avoid the estate tax. So if you have a child, it is utmost critical to set up a trust for them. Start funding your trust with your assets, basically where you shift some of your assets to their estate. That way you minimize your estate tax exposure. So it can be painful. I mean, can you imagine Prince died without an estate plan? You know how much taxes he paid? It was crazy. It was scary. So here's what happened to Prince. He paid the estate tax. He paid probate costs, legal fees, millions of dollars in legal fees, just to basically help shield some of the assets that were still left. I mean, if you add 60, let's just say he paid 60%, plus let's just say 10% in legal fees, he was only left with maybe 30%. I mean, I don't know anybody who wants to pass away and have 70% of their money go to waste, basically. That is scary, to say the least. So now you know it is utmost critical to do these things. Remember, it begins with an estate attorney, and typically the estate attorney might have a tax professional, a tax advisor, who can help properly make sure all the tax implications of the estate plan are being handled correctly. So I would hate to pay 60% of my wealth to Uncle Sam. I mean, that is crazy. But ultimately, a will, so let's talk about the first document. It's a will. A will is often the very first document that gets drafted in an estate plan. A will indicates who gets what assets. Has an executor, should have at least 2 people as the executor, as well as a guardian. So, by the way, if you pass away and you don't have an estate plan, you had a kid, the state actually gets to determine who takes care of your child. That is scary. Even if they know you had guardians and you had or you had not necessarily guardians, or if they knew that you had other people that were there, but who are not legally, remember, paperwork is very important, legally listed as guardians. The state can now determine who actually takes care of your child. To me, that is very, very scary. And the movie I was watching, or the show I was watching yesterday, is called Iron Fist. It's about a billionaire kid or a billionaire guy who, he has his fist basically. I don't know if you guys watch Marvel, but his fist can literally light up to give him a special ability. So, and I do watch shows and movies, by the way, for those who didn't know. But basically, his parents passed away, or allegedly passed away, due to a plane crash. And he was left with 51% of his parents' company. It was worth billions of dollars. He had billions of dollars tied to his name. Unfortunately, he was pronounced dead as part of the plane crash, but he survived and then ended up living with some monks who taught him how to fight. They taught him martial arts and all types of crazy stuff. And so he came back to life, regained 51% of the company, because guess what? His parents put the proper estate plan in place. That way, if he came back to life, literally that's what happened. He came back to life where he was pronounced dead, came back to life and was able to claim his assets. That money would have went to the wrong person had they not had a proper estate plan in place. So even movies, even shows, even teach you some of this stuff too, right? And I love Iron Fist, by the way. I'm a big Marvel guy, so I've watched Luke Cage, the Netflix series. I watched The Defenders. Now I'm on Iron Fist, and then I'll move to Black Lightning. So these are all different shows that actually Black Lightning, I believe it's through DC. But these. Not to say that you should be watching these shows at all times and all that, but some of these things actually teach you lessons in life that we all can learn from today. But basically, if you have a will, your will can tell who's guardian for minor children, and you should have at least 2 people listed as the guardian. The main purpose of a will is to distribute property to beneficiaries after your death. Wills do not, I repeat, do not avoid probate. But everyone on the planet should, at a bare minimum, everybody that's listening right now should at a bare minimum have a will. The next set of documents are your trust documents. Extremely important to have trust documents. A trust indicates when and how your assets will be distributed and has a trustee, which should be at least 2 people. While you're alive, you are typically your trustee, and maybe your spouse is also a trustee. And then you can also, maybe you don't have a spouse, so you can designate maybe a parent or somebody who you trust as your trustee. It should, of course, be somebody who you trust, hence the word trust. A living trust, also known as a revocable or inter vivos trust, is a separate legal entity you create to own property, such as your home or investments. So basically, when you set up a trust, everything that you own should be owned by the trust. Your house, your car, your real estate, your business, everything should be owned by the trust. If you own real estate, it should be owned by a land trust. Love land trust for real estate. If it's your personal home, then a living trust will do. There is no due on sale clause for living trust. Bank accounts should be owned, investment accounts, Bitcoin, all of that should be owned by a living trust. That way, when you pass away, all you have to do is get an attorney or get your attorney in a room. They look at the trust documents. Everything gets transferred over. Boom. You don't have to go through probate. So trusts do avoid probate or having to go to court and paying extremely high fees like Prince did when he passed away. Probate releases your private information to the public and basically allows anyone to claim anything they want. So this is how people were claiming back child support against him that didn't really exist. They were making fraudulent claims against his estate. But who was the judge to know if there was no trust or will in place? So love trusts, keep in mind that living trusts do not protect your identity, so it does not provide privacy. However, if it's an irrevocable trust or if it's a land trust, it could provide privacy because it has a separate business entity. For example, if you're looking to see who owns a property that's in a land trust, the owner is going to show something like this. Chicago Title Land Trust number 1234567. That's the owner, not Jeff Badu, not Badu Investments. So it is very important to have these things in place. Now you can always amend a living trust by making changes and getting the trust documents notarized after having witnesses sign it, typically your attorney. Good to have both a will and a trust. At a minimum, a will. Once you have kids, you should definitely have a trust in place. Or once you start attaining a significant amount of assets, then you should definitely have a trust in place. 2 main types of trusts, revocable versus irrevocable. Most trusts are revocable living trusts. Irrevocable trusts is definitely good for asset protection and also has tax ramifications. So it has a lot of tax protection or tax avoidance. And you must file a tax return for that irrevocable trust each year, and it also has its own tax ID. Revocable trust has no asset protection and no privacy. So shielding assets in asset protection vehicles such as retirement accounts are a great idea. So basically, to sum that up, the reason why you would have a trust is because you want assets to pass down very smoothly. If you want, basically, revocable does not protect the assets themselves, nor does it provide privacy, but it does avoid probate. If you want to have privacy and if you want to avoid some of the estate tax, then you set up an irrevocable living trust. The difference between revocable and irrevocable is revocable is you can make changes to the beneficiaries at any time. Irrevocable, you cannot make changes. So that is one thing to keep in mind. You cannot make changes to an irrevocable trust, but there are ways to basically connect the dots and have everything run smoothly. It's normal for a revocable trust to turn into an irrevocable trust once you pass away. So once you pass away, it becomes irrevocable, meaning the beneficiaries do not change. Hence, you can probably avoid some of the probate tax. I'm sorry, not probate, but the estate tax that's out there. Everything should be owned by your trust and paid by your trust. So everything will be in your trust name, basically. So your bank account would no longer say Jeff Badu. It would say, basically, Living Trust FBO, or for the benefit of Jeff Badu, basically. So it goes something along those lines. And keep in mind, all retirement accounts are trust accounts. So if you have an IRA or 401k, those are actually trust accounts. However, things like a bank account, cars, real estate, those are things that are not necessarily trust accounts. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the best time to start a trust is once you have a child. So the moment you get your first child is when you should have a trust. Unless it's real estate. If it's real estate, you should have a land trust anyway. But we're talking about your revocable living trust is best when you have a child. And if you have a child now, you should be talking to an attorney right after this. Remember, if you need one, let me know. My attorney is the best. He's the best in the game, and he'll be sure to hook you up. So if you're only leaving money to a charity, then a will is going to suffice, because, then the will would tell exactly who gets what. Trust should be reviewed and updated at least every 5 years. Or when you have a life-changing event, when you get married, God forbid a divorce, a new baby. Always stay proactive in these trust affairs. So definitely something to keep in mind. Now, the next document you need is a durable power of attorney, DPOA for short, which can help protect your property in the event you become physically unable or mentally incompetent to handle financial matters. A DPOA, or durable power of attorney, allows you to authorize someone else to act on your behalf so he or she can do things like paying everyday expenses, collecting some of your benefits, watch over your investments, and filing your taxes. So if somebody has a durable power of attorney, then they can definitely help you. And there's a question, is that who is your attorney? Please reach out to me after the show in order for me to refer you my attorney directly. So yeah, durable power of attorney allows somebody to basically take over your financial life because you're mentally incompetent or unable to do so. Advanced medical directives let others know what medical treatment you want or you would want, or allow someone to make medical decisions for you in the event you can't express wishes for yourself. For example, if you want to pull the plug, then you simply say, let them know, do not resuscitate. Basically meaning that if I'm God forbid, if I'm on my deathbed, then please do whatever it takes to kill me, basically. Not saying murder me or anything like that, but I don't want to suffer, pretty much. So do not resuscitate means that just let me go and just give me a pill or something to leave this planet. So it can be tough. Making those life decisions can be very tough. Just some people want to live as long as possible, but for me personally, I don't want to suffer. So if I'm going through a big medical issue and it's just causing so much pain, suffering, not just for me but for my loved ones, I'm just gonna tell them, hey, pull the plug and just let it be. Let it be what it is. The estate plan. So we're good. Now, letter of instruction is the last document you need in your estate plan. Also called a testamentary letter or side letter is an informal, non-legal document that generally accompanies your will and is used to express your personal thoughts and directions regarding what it is in the will. So basically, it's about other things such as your burial wishes, where to locate other documents. This is just call it a cover letter, or call it some sort of letter that basically tells somebody, okay, these are my values in life. I want to be cremated versus non-cremated. I want $100,000 funeral with the president there or the mayor there. Or I just want a $5,000 funeral. So it really tells your trustee or your executor of your estate that these are the things that I want when I pass away, or here's the password to my files, or it's so important. Some people literally pass away, you don't even know what their passwords are, because they did not have these things in place. It is utmost critical. It doesn't matter how old or young you are, you need to have these things in place. For those that are older, it would be a shame for you not to have these things in place. For those that are younger, I encourage you to get a head start on this stuff, because we don't know. And COVID-19 is here. It is killing thousands and thousands of people. Florida, on Sunday, 15,600 cases in one day. We don't know. So why would we put ourselves at risk by not having these things in place? It is utmost critical. A will can cost as little as $20 to get, right? Or if you go through an attorney, then they can really take care of you. So all in all, to conclude, you should always keep your estate plan up to date and updated every time you move states. It is so important. I mean, this part is very important. If you're moving from Chicago to Texas or Chicago to Atlanta, please, please, please let your attorney know so that they can update your estate documents. And it also carries some tax and legal benefits. For example, in the state of Texas, there is no estate tax. And in the state of Texas, their asset protection laws tend to be a lot friendlier. So it would make no sense for you not to update your estate documents if you move from Chicago to Texas. It would only be a disadvantage for you. You have to be proactive when it comes to this stuff. Always best to seek an attorney when developing an estate plan. Do not try this at home. My firm has partnered with one of the best. I mean, we have a few in our arsenal, but one of the best estate planners on the planet if you need one. Without an estate plan, what you work so hard for may all go to waste or to the wrong people, just like what happened to Prince. Plan now so that you can leave a legacy when it's all said and done. We don't know when it's all said and done. So why put ourselves at risk? Why put our families at risk? Why put our loved ones at risk? All that we work so hard for, blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, we're just like, we're doing everything in our power to help our clients. Next thing you know, we have nothing to show for it. It is very, very bad. I hear about accountants dying all the time, unfortunately, where there's no estate plan, there's nothing to show for it. And I'm like, that has got to be the most ridiculous thing on the planet, to work so hard day and night, pulling all-nighters and all types of crazy stuff, sacrificing your weekends, which to me, to this day, I don't sacrifice my weekends anymore. I might do a little light work Saturday morning, but outside of that, I don't work Saturday afternoon to the rest of the day, and I don't work on Sundays anymore at all. The only thing I might do, maybe some light emails, maybe very, very light, but I don't even turn on my laptop after 12 o'clock on Saturdays anymore at all, because it's just not worth it, to be honest. It is not worth it. It is not worth the pain and the suffering. You will have to make sacrifice at some point. But me personally, I'm at the stage in life where it's just not worth it. It is not worth my health. It is not worth me sacrificing my freedom just to please others. Right? We will always meet the needs of our clients. We will always be reasonable, and we will always be there. But we will not, and I repeat, we will not sacrifice our own lives just because we want some money. That is not what we'll do. And so for somebody to not have an estate plan and do all of that on top of that, I mean, that is very, very, very painful. And I highly encourage you to get an estate plan in place if you fit within this category. So with that being said, It is 7:47, and it looks like we'll just wrap it up today. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all gained some insight from this. Next week, my beautiful fiance talked to me and said that we should do a segment on best practices for married couples, newlyweds. And so we'll be talking about some of the financial areas that newlywed couples should be doing. She said, "Hey, we should do something." And so I'll be doing a segment. She may or may not be here with me on the segment. So we'll see about that. And happy tax season, by the way. So July 15th is on Wednesday. We're super excited for tax season. Not necessarily to be over with or anything, but it's always a huge sigh of relief. It's a sense of accomplishment. And I'll be gone all this weekend with no phone or email access at all. So if you call me or email me or even text me this weekend, you won't get a response, unfortunately. I'll be gone to a private location. Remember, we travel in silence nowadays, due to COVID-19 and all this crazy stuff going on. So we will be in a private location, just celebrating, just enjoying each other's company, right? And just having fun. Life is too short. Life is too short not to enjoy it. You gotta get out. You have to get out of the scenery sometimes. Out of this whole Chicago. I mean, I've been in Chicago now, locked down in Chicago for 7 months. I gotta get up out of here, right? Of course, we'll be taking safety precautions and all that good stuff. Trust me, we got it down packed. We got the African COVID-19 vaccine in our bags, so we'll be good. So with that being said, thank you all for tuning in to WJC 98.3 FM, your voice and music, your station. If you need anything, please contact me, 773-679-7198, 773-679-7198. My email is jeffbadu@gmail.com, jeffbadu@gmail.com. Website is jeffbadu.com, where you can find all these things posted, content, a lot of stuff that's very important to pay attention to. But once again, thank you all for tuning in. My name is Jeff Badu, and I look forward to continuously delivering you all some content. Thank you.